saw on the internet that there was a gathering of people interested in Twain here today, so I drove up. I find I like people who like Twain. I'm turning 70 this year, and I had no more than a general knowledge of Twain until about 7 or 8 years ago. I was playing around with doing regional theater in Sarasota and Bradenton and enjoying it for the first time. And I thought, you know, at my advanced age, damn near Medicare, I better specialize. So I looked around for someone to portray, and Twain just popped to the top of the list. Then I started delving into his life. Several surprising things, many of which you've covered here already. What's surprising is the number of people on earth, not just in this country, who revere his writings, his ideas, and the extraordinary life that he lived as an American. And they continue to find out more about him all the time. University of California, Berkeley has the Twain Project, fully funded through charity, and they've been at work 30 years, building everything that they could about this extraordinary single individual who has had such an impact on this country and much of the rest of the world. Not just the English-speaking world, France, Japan, China, Russia, South Africa, all of them. I was astounded at the number of intellectuals and academics who continue to study Mark Twain. I visited all of the major sites in this country that Twain occupied. Hannibal, Missouri, Florida, Missouri, where he was born, Virginia City, where he was a reporter, San Francisco, New York, Elmira, New York, Hartford, Connecticut. And they all have their own ways of creating monuments to this character. I attended every 4 years, Elmira College hosts a Twain symposium, and it draws people, academics, and portrayers of Twain like myself from all over the world. There were French, Japanese, Russians, a lot of Americans, Canadians, and they spend 3 days on this campus, gorgeous campus in Elmira, telling what they've recently learned about Twain. And people are still learning because his letters keep showing up. He wrote thousands and thousands of letters to all kinds of people on all kinds of subjects, many of which are still tucked away in attics and basements and so on, and eventually show up. He's written, including his 3-volume biography, he's written 25 books, 3 plays, one that was just discovered about 10 years ago, and it's making its way to Broadway now. It's called Is He Dead? That play. It's a play about a young French artist who does wonderful work, but he can't sell his stuff for enough to pay for his materials and his canvases and so on. So he decides to die. He fakes his death, puts on a wig and a dress, and becomes his long-lost sister, so he can still be around. But the price of his stuff just goes skyrocketing because he's dead. And of course, he's still making new stuff all this time. That's the plot line. I won't tell you how it turns out. You asked me what the book I liked best, and I said it was his autobiography. Most of it was dictated. He didn't sit down and write it. he had a cigar in this hand usually, pocket in this hand, and he was walking up and down his veranda or his billiard room, wherever he wanted to be, and he had a stenographer take down all of his notes, and then she would type them up after the typewriter was invented. She did, and he'd go over them in the evening, edit them, and then just put them in a stack to become his growing autobiography. He talked about everything and everyone. But what is remarkable about his autobiography is, and unique, nobody else has ever done it. I haven't done it since. He wrote as if he had been in his grave for 100 years, and everything was not to be seen or read by anyone until that happened. So he died in 1910. 2010 was the first volume of his 3-volume autobiography to come out, and it was a bestseller on the New York Times. You might have read. So he was able to be exceedingly honest in what he wrote about at that time. In his early years, he thought that he would love to grow up and be a preacher. But he just couldn't buy the whole religious ball of wax. He couldn't find the faith. So he couldn't make himself stand up and preach. So he decided the best thing he could do was to be a humorist, because he saw a funny tint to a lot of things that people took very seriously. And he was known during his lifetime as the American humorist, Mark Twain. It galled him a little bit because he really wanted to be known as a serious author also. And he finally was recognized that way. Oxford University gave him a Doctor of Letters, about 1906, 7. And he was not feeling very well, but there was nothing that would stop him from getting on a ship and going over to Oxford and collecting that honorary degree. His best biographer is Ron Powers, still alive. Happened to be born in Hannibal, Missouri, and raised there, same place Twain was raised. But he has written what most people think of as the definitive biography of Sam Clemens / Mark Twain. And he said that Twain had the extraordinary good luck to live and work throughout America at the time and place where momentous things were happening to this country. He was part of it. He lived it. He knew the people doing it. And that was true from the moment he became an adult to the moment he died. In delving into Twain, I've learned a lot more about this country and how it managed to hold itself together after the Civil War, how it changed before and after the Civil War, because that was the momentous occurrence during his lifetime. And I have such great respect for the system that our founders put together that would weather all of these hurricanes and earthquakes of social change, technology change, political change, religious change. And he saw those things, and he loved America very much. He spent a lot of years abroad, mostly in Europe, as we heard. But people there didn't call him Mark Twain or anything else. They just called him the American, which is what he was, always will be, very proudly so. The portrayal that I chose to do about Mark Twain, selfishly, was for my own good. He had a hard time reaching his 70th year and acknowledging that he was actually that old. He turned 70 in 1905, when the life expectancy in this country for a white male American was 47 years. So his wife had just died a couple of years before, the love of his life. 3 of his children had died. And he felt that his strenuous years were behind him. It was all over. He was feeling sorry for himself. And in this portrayal, I have him come home to his place in 21 Fifth Avenue, New York. And his remaining daughter, Clara, has surprised him with a room full of friends. So, being the entertainer that he was and the gentleman that he was, when he comes home planning to be hermit for the day, he was going to have a couple of books, several cigars, a few pipes, and just let 70th birthday expire into a cloud of smoke. But he finds all these friends there, so he decides to entertain them. And during the course of his entertainment, in recounting stories, telling a couple of humorous things, he realizes that it's not so bad being 70. He has no reason to disenjoy, a word he liked to use, disenjoy that milestone of age. So by the end of the portrayal, he has reconciled his spirit to his age, and he is content. So that is true. That is what happened to him. Helps me because I've got maybe 3 months now and I turn 70. So I keep thinking about that. He's a man who was born 111 years before me, and I keep finding so many parallels in my life compared to his. It is uncanny, absolutely uncanny. So I've got this this dead mentor that I can turn to whenever I want. And if I don't like what he says, I'll just shut the book and go somewhere else. You could do a lot worse than spending time reading Twain, criticizing him, second-guessing him. He was simply a genius. And so I hope you will maybe use this to increase your connection to Twain. One last thing. He did tell a joke. Although he was a stand-up comedian by today's terminology, that was not a term used back then. And when he told this joke, he was not standing, he was sitting in a committee in Congress, which was listening to people who had something to say about our copyright laws. They were terrible back in his day. Anytime he published a book, he had to cross the border into Canada, a British territory, and register it there. Otherwise, Canada could print that book and give him no remuneration whatsoever. England could print it, anyone and everyone. And on this side of the border, in the United States, the copyright laws only gave him a brief period of time to receive anything from any literary creation. He was there to tell him that, look, if a man builds a house on land, it's his until he dies or he sells it or someone else inherits it. But if I build this novel, this whole environment of characters and people and dialogue and everything, and try to sell it, somebody else can take it, reprint it, and sell it, and keep all of that. There's no justice in the copyright laws in this country. Well, he wanted to lighten the mood a little bit as he was telling Congress this. So he told a little story about a man that he knew and admired. It has nothing to do with copyright. He said he's a young man, and he recently bought an Oldsmobile motor car. Well, he likes to acquire all of the newfangled things. He's got a sewing machine, he's got a telephone, he's got a typewriter, so he had to have an Oldsmobile, and I thought he was superficial. I'll go into Twain now. I thought he was a young, superficial man, but I have since learned that he has a wonderfully wide and deep concern and compassion for his fellow man, which I admire. Now, how do I know that? Well, just a few nights ago, he returned home from his club, quite late. He stepped down from his Oldsmobile, and there was his house, just weaving and weaving and weaving around. Well, he waited. By and by, when the front steps came around his way, he jumped up on the portico. But the house went on weaving, weaving, weaving. So he got down on all fours and crawled through the front door. And inside, the house was still weaving and weaving and weaving. So he crawled up the staircase to the top, got up there, stood up, and don't you know, his toe hitched on that top step, and he came tumbling all the way down to the bottom, fetched up with his arm around the newel post, and he said, "Lord, pity the poor sailors at sea on a night like this." That's Twain.
Thank you very much. And we're going to end it with that because that can't follow it. So I want to thank Kurt, our great cameraman, of course Martha Muzzy, who does fantastic work, and of course the people who come and join us once a month.
Thanks everybody for coming out, and thank you, Rod, for sharing all that.
And I want to thank Neptune Grill for allowing us to have them host us, and also the Blueberry Patch for allowing this to occur. Anyways, not next. There's no first Sunday next month, right?
No.
And I don't know if we've made arrangements for August.
August is still to be announced.
Okay.
Discuss.
Okay. So, hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Tijan, this dream's where you belong. Your golden journey now has just begun, with your mother's arms to hold.